Hi guys, welcome back to yet another video of Microsoft ERP Beginners Tutorial Series. My name is Mohammed Yasser. I'm a Microsoft MVP. If you are new to this channel, then I highly recommend you to watch the whole series from episode 1 to get the maximum benefit out of the knowledge being shared in Dynamics Lab. And again, if you are new to Dynamics Lab, I highly recommend you to also check the course that is available below. And this particular course is not like any other courses available on the internet. This is a real implementation led course where we will be covering the business processes, and then we will be configuring the system from the scratch, from the level 0 to all up towards the advanced level. So today's particular topic is going to be on the intercompany setup in Microsoft Dynamics 365, and we will be firstly again going to get started with the business process to understand what is intercompany exactly is, and then we will set the system up for the intercompany from the scratch, and then we will get into the business process side of intercompany. That's going to be the agenda of today's video. So let's get into the
Hi
video,
guys, welcome back. So before getting started with the intercompany setup in the system directly, let's try to firstly understand what is the intercompany business process is, and then we will come back to the system and try the scenario. So let us go to the whiteboard as usual to understand about the intercompany. So let's assume that there are two parties in our scenario. One is an OEM. OEM stands for original equipment manufacturer, who is the manufacturer. Let's say in this example, like as you know, we always take an example of a car distributor manufacturer, which is our ADC motor company. We all know that if you are watching my series from the beginning. If not, then you can also subscribe to my the course, which is the link is available below. The course is where I'm actually implementing a new legal entity from the scratch by setting up all possible parameters for that particular legal entity. Anyway, so currently coming back to the scenario, there are two parties in this particular scenario. One is an OEM and another is an importer. The OEM obviously is a manufacturer of the car who actually manufactures the car using discrete manufacturing, and then they later on sell this particular car to the importer, where the importer helps the OEM in importing a car to a specific market, and they are the ones who are responsible to later on sell the car in that particular market. Let's say we have multiple OEMs. We have the Caterpillar as a brand, we have Honda, we have Mahindra, we have Mercedes-Benz. These are all different OEMs, right? Every OEM have their regional presence. Like for example, if you say Audi or Mercedes-Benz, they are European brand. Isuzu or Hitachi or maybe Suzuki, they are Japanese brand. Likewise, we have Tesla, US brand. So these OEMs usually have their regional presence. They have the manufacturing plant in that specific country. They manufacture using discrete manufacturing, and then later on they go ahead and sell it to another country, where the importer helps them in importing that particular car to that particular country, and they localize the car with the regulatory requirements of that specific country. For example, let's say the OEM here is a car manufacturer, and he is a US based brand. They later on manufacture the car, and then they sell it to an importer who is actually a subsidiary of the OEM, who is helping the OEM in importing the car into the Indian market, let's say for example, and then later on they have franchise with different retailers and dealers, and they will be the ones responsible for selling a car to the end customer. That is where the showroom, etc., that we go to buy a car, right? This is one classic high level scenario. There are so many things, but I'm only talking about a very high level picture here. So let's now assume that this particular OEM is USMF legal entity. This is a US based legal entity, and this importer here is our ADC motor legal entity that's we've been implementing from the starting of this particular series. So this legal entity is, in this particular example, is a subsidiary of the OEM. They are two different legal entities. They are subsidiaries of each other. Likewise, there might be different importers where the OEM is working with in different region and different countries. They are all various different legal entity in Microsoft Dynamics 365 system. To keep it simple, right now we are assuming that this OEM is having only one importer, and that importer is ADC motor, and the OEM is USMF. So as a business process, this legal entity is selling a car, this legal entity is buying a car, right? So there is a intercompany trading relationship between them. So this entity, whenever it needs a car, it is going to raise a purchase order, because this legal entity is a buying legal entity. So it creates a purchase order. Whereas for this legal entity, that becomes a sales order, right? So whenever I create a purchase order in this particular company in my system, since I'm going to set the system up for intercompany transaction to avoid any manual work, if it's a manual process, then I will have to create a purchase order in this system and call the OEM, or maybe email the OEM stating that I would like to go with this purchase order. Then the OEM will actually need to create a sales order in their system, right? So just to keep it simple and to automate the whole process, the intercompany scenario or features available in Dynamics 365, what it does is, as soon as I create a purchase order in the importer legal entity, it automatically creates a sales order in the OEM entity. So that is the second step. The first step is the PO is created here. The second step is the SO is automatically created here. Once the SO is automatically created here, then the third step is going to be the OEM shipping the stock, meaning the car uh, to the importer. So once the OEM ships it, then the fourth step is going to be the importer receiving it. So once the importer receives it, then later on, maybe in some cases the shipping, the third and fifth step happens together. Or in my case, they shipped it, I received it, and then they are initiating an invoice. So they are initiating a sales order invoice, and then later on I will post a purchase order invoice as well. Okay. So this is the step. Okay. The first step is I am going to create a PO, and then they create an SO, and then they ship the SO, I receive the PO, and then they send the invoice, then I receive the purchase invoice. So this is the intercompany process. But in my case, I'm going to start with a PO, which will in turn create an SO. But it can even be starting with an SO if you want. It will also create a PO automatically. Okay. But to keep the logic sequence intact, I'm going to start with PO first, and then the system will create a SO. So for this whole thing to work, in order for me to create a PO, the first step is I first need a vendor in the system. So as an importer, since I'm going to create a PO, in the importer's company, I need to have a vendor which is representing my OEM here, right? So the OEM needs to be configured as a vendor in this particular system, whereas for the OEM, the importer is going to be the customer. So this importer needs to be set up as a customer in this particular system. So let us firstly create a vendor and a customer. Vendor in the ADC motor, customer in the USMF. So I have ADC motor, and then let me also have the USMF open. So right now in the importer's company, I'm going to create a vendor. Let's create a vendor first. So let's name the vendor as USMF Intercom vendor. And then let me pick a vendor group, intercompany vendor group. That's the most important. These are all the important things. Other than that, we don't need any specific setup for now. So that's the vendor. I mean, I will come back to the vendor and do the intercompany setup, of course. But other than that, you don't need to fill anything specifically here in the vendor record. But the one thing to notice is within the vendor record, you will have an intercompany parameter here, which is right now not activated. You cannot manually enable it, even if you try. People sometimes think that if I enable it, then this vendor becomes an intercompany vendor. This cannot be enabled manually here. We need to just go through one more step in order for the system will automatically enable it. Okay, so that's the intercompany vendor setup. We will come back to that setup shortly. And then we will go to the other legal entity, which is USMF, and here we will create a customer which represents ADC motor. So let me create a customer. Okay, this intercom customer. I'm going to say intercompany customer. Can of course populate the address, etc. Not going to get into that. So this is in the USMF company. So we have created a customer and we have created a vendor. So now going back to the vendor. So in the vendor, the first setup required for the intercompany setups are very, very simple. So go to the general tab and click on the intercompany link. So there are multiple tabs here. Some of the tabs we will see later stage, but we will be only focusing on the important tab, which is this. So for the basic scenario, it's fine to just configure this tab. The other tabs are just optional. So for enabling intercompany for the vendor, just activate this. And right now it's saying my company is ADC and the vendor number is the one that we've just created. And the customer company, we will have to, the other company who will be attached as a customer to this vendor, you will have to pick that out manually. So use the USMF here and then try to pick the customer account here. So the customer account here is the ADC motor intercom, right? So this way the vendor is connected with the customer in the USMF. That's how the system knows that this is kind of an intercompany vendor. Okay. So apart from this, if you are like also going to use direct delivery as a business process, I believe we have already covered in this course. If not, then you might need to maybe also check in my my course, the paid course, which is the link is below, where I would have definitely covered. But I'm very sure that even in this YouTube series, I would have covered the direct delivery as a business process. So you can check that out. So direct delivery is a kind of a business process, and you can also have a direct delivery in relation with the intercompany. If that is your scenario, then you will have to enable some of this, because this will actually automate the posting, packing slip posting, product receipt cost posting, etc. When the packing slip is posted at one area, the product receipt automatically gets posted. So this is kind of a direct delivery intercompany. We will try to cover that out later on, but let's firstly stick to the basics. So in order to do all that, you need to enable this parameter. And you may need to enable this parameter if you want to edit the pricing or change the pricing within the purchase order at the later stage. I will show you a demo of that shortly. I'm not going to enable it now. Later on, we will come back and enable it so you exactly understand what is this all about. So don't worry, we will cover it shortly. So other than that, this one you may not need to worry about it, that, and this is related with purchase agreement. You don't need to worry much about it for now. And this one, maybe in the future videos, we will try to cover at least a couple of them here. For example, this particular payment journal is very important, because when you are actually paying the vendor payment in the purchase order, the vendor payment automatically triggers a customer payment journal in the sales order, the other legal entity. In order for that to be triggered, you may need to enable this particular parameter and also tag the proper payment journals in place. So this is a kind of an important setup. This is recommended setup to do. And also, if you would like to have the automation in place, it's also recommended to enable this so that the automatic postings happens. Likewise, if you want to override the pricing in the sales order, you may need to enable all of this. And likewise, if you want the number sequence in the sales order to be unique, different from the usual regular number sequence of a regular sales order, then you may actually tag the last one over here, which actually appends the intercompany legal entity number with the sales order number sequence. So that way you can um, separate the actual sales order versus um, the intercompany sales order. So I'm not going to do that. We will come back to that later. So that is done. Likewise, you don't need to worry about any other setups here. So the main primary ones is the activate button here and the legal entity here. Once you do that, then if I go back to the vendor, the system automatically enables this activate button. You cannot manually do it, but it will auto activate it. um, Once you do it at the vendor side, you don't need to worry about the customer side, because in the customer side, everything is automatically taken care. So for example, even in the customer side, you have this intercompany thing and it's automatically enabled, and this is automatically mapped to the vendor here. Okay, so all this happens automatically. Either you do it in the customer side or you do it in the vendor side, the other side will be automatically taken care. So this is done. So now let us try to create a PO. But before creating a PO, we may need to firstly have an item in place. So let me quickly create an item so that we can use that item in the PO. So let me show you something here. Let me create an item called brake disc. In this case, we are purchasing a car parts from the OEM. We not only purchase the car itself, right? We also purchase the spare part needed for the car sometimes from the OEM, which is called as like a genuine parts, right? So we are purchasing that in this particular situation. So let me say 300, 350, 300. That's going to be the purchase sales price of the part. And I'm going to key in this as FIFO and this as spare part, site and warehouse, and that one is going to be none. So the part is created. Let me copy the part number, and now let's try to go to the accounts payable all purchase order and create a purchase order. This is going to be the intercompany purchase order. Before that, I would like to also do one small thing in the vendor. I'm not sure whether the workflow is enabled. Usually whenever the purchase order is created, the system automatically creates a sales order on the other side. But if the workflow is enabled, then the system, it becomes a bit tricky for the system to create a sales order on the other side, because you may need to firstly enable the workflow, so confirm the purchase order one side, and then the sales order gets created. To avoid all that, I'm not sure whether the change management is enabled, so I'm just going to bypass the workflow. So let me just um, disable the workflow for this vendor to be at the safe side. And now let's try to go and create a purchase order. So that's the vendor, USMF vendor, and that's the warehouse I wanted to receive into. And you see here, this is also an indicator that this purchase order is a intercompany purchase order, because this enables, and this also represents which legal entity this particular purchase order is pointing to. So as soon as the PO is right now created, system creates an SO and the other legal entity. You see that there is a SO created, which is good. And here I'm going to add one of my item that I have just created in this legal entity, and it's now going to throw an error, because this item is currently in this particular legal entity ADC motor, but this item is not in the other legal entity, which is the USMF. So that's why the error is. So what we will do is, let's go to this particular item and let's release this item to the other legal entity as well. So I'm doing all of this from the scratch because when you are doing it just like me, you will encounter all these issues. So just to avoid you getting into all of these problems, I'm trying to face all these issues so that you are clear about all the concepts. Um, Actually, I'm going to, I don't need to, okay, yeah. Anyway, so I have tagged this and so I'm going to the USMF legal entity. Okay, sorry, this button is getting, okay. So this is done, but still, you might have a problem. Even if I go back again, you will get another error stating that the item number is not having the item group, etc. So I'm going to go to the relevant item number in the USMF legal entity and make sure I rectify it. Okay. This did come automatically because we have filled this in the product, so it did come, whereas the other things did not come. We have to uh, manually fill them in, which needs to match with the other legal entities setup, or depending on the business process. Anyway, I'm going to put a item group and item model group here. I believe that's all. So now let's go back to the purchase order. And remove this, and then let's try to add it again. So it did bring in the one quantity and then the price, unit price, right? 300. That's very good. On the other hand, if I go to the sales order in the USMF legal entity, let me go from here. I could actually access the sales order directly from the PO, but anyway, we'll do that later. So that's the sales order. Let me just filter it out. So let me get into the sales order. So you see that the sales order has the same item number and this here. Okay. So on the other side, you have the purchase order, and the next step is to confirm the purchase order. The status here will change. It is confirmed. The purchase order is confirmed, right? On the other side, of course, it's not mandatory, but you can also confirm the sales order over here. Okay, right now it is confirmed. Likewise, in the purchase order side, you cannot override the pricing now, right? Like for example, let's say that the 300, you want to revise it to 350 for some reason. It's not possible to override the pricing, like for example, here on the sales order side or on a purchase order side or anything here. That's because of our setup. So if you go to the intercompany setup, right? Let me show you the parameters so you understand better. So if you go to the accounts payable, vendors, um, okay, that vendor, um, you remember that we have discussed about this policies over here, right? So within the policy, you can actually, if you want to enable all of this, and if you enable all of this, the system also gives you a warning. So once you do that, and if I try to refresh this page, save it, and you will see now, I have this ability to change the pricing now and override them because of the changes I have made to the parameter. Likewise, even here on the sales order level, you may enable it if you want to change at the sales order level as well. Okay, make sure you save it. Okay, so but now the changes that I made in the purchase order is also, if I refresh it, should reflect here as well in the sales order, but I think I didn't save it or something, I think so. So let me, yeah, it's changed here as well. Okay, so now we fix the price, the purchase order is created, and the sales order is created on the other side, and I made changes to a purchase order. Since I made changes to the purchase order, the status changed back to the approved. Now I again need to confirm it one more time so that it again changed back to the confirmed. Any changes you do is written back both the sides, and again you may need to confirm it, right? So that is good. Now let's go back to the sales order, and now the OEM, which is the USMF company, is willing to ship this particular sales order. So in order to ship this particular sales order, obviously this needs to be in stock, but this item we just created, it's not in stock. In real life, you don't need to do this step, but just because I do not have the stock, I'm trying to uh, like do some inventory adjustments to the item to create stock. Okay, so let me quickly do maybe accounting or accounting journal posting, so it's more easier for me. And one more thing, guys, before all of this, sorry to confuse you with multiple screens, but I wanted to also show you one more thing before we get into the inventory boosting all the way back. I forgot to tell you that. So here, guys, um, the sales order, right? If we check the sales order, there is no site and warehouse, right? So the site and warehouse also need to be we need to make sure they are properly mapped, or else you might get an error later stage. But you don't need to manually do all of this every time. um, these things can be automated. This can be defaulted into the customer or into the resource default, into the default value of the item, etc. Or else I think, one second, or else I think, even in the inventory management section, if I'm not wrong, under the inventory management parameters, oh, the fallback warehouse is already there, but still the intercompany is not taking it up. So which means that I believe it's not working on the basis of the fallback. It needs to be either in the customer level or in the default value level within the item master. So that's how this automates. Okay. In this particular case, it wasn't there. So I'm actually I'm tagging the warehouse manually, which is important. So once you tag the warehouse manually, now let's try to add some stock to that particular warehouse. Mm, Not sure whether it's advanced warehouse, but let's see. Um, so the warehouse is number 21. Ready, one, two, three. Okay, now let's try to put 100 quantity. Okay, so I have boosted the stock. So now we will go all the way and I think I've already okay, I need to confirm it again because I just mapped the warehouse in the sales order, and then let's post the picking list. I never transacted in this environment in this legal entity. I believe it does has all the posting profile set up in place. Let's see. Okay, and now let's do the picking list registration. It's done, and now let's post the packing slip, meaning we are shipping the product to the ADC Motor Company. So the product is right now successfully shipped, and the other side the product needs to be received. So I'm right now in the ADC Motor Company, so I'm going to receive it. So I will directly post the product receipt here because I wanted to show you something. So within the product receipt level, you see that there is this product receipt number is a packing slip number that's automatically picked by the system. You don't need to manually key in, because here you see that there is a packing slip already posted, and this number from the USMF legal entity is picked within the ADC motor, and the system automatically populates, which is great, right? It's saving you some time. So now let's go and post the product receipt in the ADC Motor Company, which should post, I think, but it didn't. Oh, okay. Because of the fact that I made some changes to the sales order on the other side by tagging the warehouse, the the confirm button again got reversed. So I will have to, any changes I do, guys, I'll have to make sure I confirm it again. So now let's post the product receipt. I believe it should post. So once the product receipt is posted, then we have received this particular product into my ADC Motor Company, which is just now shipped by the other legal entity, which is good. And now the next step would be to go ahead and do the invoicing. This is a customer invoice. This is the customer invoice. This is coming from the sales order. Okay, we have invoiced it. And likewise, guys, if you go to the let's click on the invoice journal. Just wanted to show you something here as well. So in the customer invoice journal, that's the recent invoice that we have just posted to the ADC Motor as a customer to the legal entity. That's the sales order that we've just used. We posted it today. And the one differentiator of the normal invoices and the intercompany invoices, if you go all the way towards your right, you'll see that the intercompany column is filled in with the relevant legal entity. And also there is this intercompany purchase order number. So you can very easily filter for based on the company here. So that way you will exactly know, which one is the intercompany order, etc. Right? So it's a very good thing, the columns that are available in the invoice journal, the customer invoice journal here. Okay, this is in the USMF legal entity, and we have successfully posted the invoice, right? So you see here in the step, right, we have created a PO, then we have created the PO SO got automatically created, and then we shipped it from the SO, we received it from the PO, and right now we have sent a sales order invoice, and the last step is the purchase invoice. So go back and then just go ahead and invoice it. And that's the last step. This is the whole intercompany scenario. Let's invoice it, and then we will check a couple of things before we wind up. So let's post this purchase order invoice, and upon posting the purchase order invoice, it's done, right? And the other thing is, like for example, here in the purchase order, you can still go to the manage tab and go and check the sales intercompany sales order. Click on it, it is going to automatically take you to the sales order in the other legal entity if you have access to the other legal entity. Okay, so this is automatically taking you to the relevant sales order. And likewise, the packing slip that we got posted in the other legal entity in USMF, you can see the packing slip even from the ADC motor. Meaning when I click on the button in the ADC motor, it's opening the form from the USMF. If I click on the back button, it's going back to the ADC motor, right? It's like automatically toggling you back and forth between the legal entity. Likewise, even the invoice journal, you can, just now that we have just checked, right? You can also see that from the purchase order. Okay, so that's available here. All that is available in the manage tab. And on top of all of this, there is also one more tab called general tab here, and there we can also see the related orders that will take you to the relevant sales order here. Similar thing, you can also see it from the sales order. So sales order also has the manage tab and general tab, which will in turn show you the intercompany purchase order and purchase order and the related order information. So I believe this is the most simplest explanation of intercompany from the business process standpoint and from the system standpoint. We have configured everything from the scratch. I hope that made sense and that was useful. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you again in another video with other topic, guys.